it is incumbent on the parties not to impede or politicize any principled humanitarian effort. Responding to humanitarian needs is not an act of legitimization or recognition. It does not take sides, and it does not yield to political influence. International humanitarian law is very clear. Parties must allow and facilitate the rapid and unimpeded passage of humanitarian relief for all civilians in need. They must ensure that humanitarian relief personnel have the freedom of movement required for their functions. What matters is that passage is as rapid as possible in the circumstances. It is therefore critical that the ICRC's delivery of humanitarian relief be allowed to resume through any available routes or routes. The ICRC is doing everything it can, but as a single organization, it can only cover the most urgent needs. Other impartial humanitarian relief must also be allowed to reach civilians who need it, and a sustainable solution for safe and regular transit of people and goods must be found.
I thank the representative of Ecuador for...
So today, I'm here to seek your support to address issues of very humanitarian nature, and we expect from this Council to condemn the use of starvation of civilians as a method of warfare prohibited by the international law, to condemn the unlawful denial of humanitarian access and depriving the civilian population in Nagorno-Karabakh of objects indispensable to their survival, including willfully impeding relief supply and access for responses to conflict-induced food insecurity, to demand full compliance with obligations under the international humanitarian law, including those related to the protection of civilians, in particular women and children, and critical civilian infrastructure. To call for the immediate restoration of freedom and security of movement of persons, vehicles, and cargo, in line with the previously reached agreements through the Lachin Corridor.
Madam President, the so-called Lachin Corridor is a road within the sovereign territory of Azerbaijan without any extraterritorial status. Is primarily intended for the movement of citizens, vehicles, and goods under the trilateral statement of November 10, 2020. In adherence to its commitments under this statement, Azerbaijan has allowed movement along this road. This remains intact after the establishment by Azerbaijan of the checkpoint on its border with Armenia. The border checkpoint was established in exercise of Azerbaijan's inherent right to safeguard its sovereignty and security, to prevent the consistent and blatant abuse by Armenia of this route for illegal military and other activities.
So France calls on Azerbaijan to comply with its international commitments, to implement the provisional measures that have been indicated by the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, in its February 22nd order. They are binding. So we demand the restoration of free movement for people, for goods, for cargo, throughout the Lachin Corridor in both directions. And we request the continuous supply of gas and electricity to the population. It's also vital to ensure continuous access to essential services for all the population. So France will intensify its humanitarian support to the affected population. We have decided to make an additional contribution of €3 million to the humanitarian action of the ICCR.